Hi Leela, Merry Christmas. I hope you have fun sewing this mask. First I'm going to show you how to thread the sewing machine and then I'll show you how to make the mask step by step. Alrighty. So first you're just going to take regular thread like this. You're going to put it on top here, and every sewing machine is different, but if you borrow mine, you can do it this way, but I'm sure your sewing machine will be similar. So there's a 1 right here. You put it in there, kind of loops around. Then you go down, and there's a 2 right here. And then there's a 3. And this thing is a little looped there too. Then there's a 4. You go back behind here. And then you go around this little loop right here, just to get it out of the way. Then, this is important, the end needs to be, I don't know if you can see, there's little fuzzies, has to be straight across. So otherwise you'll have a hard time putting it in your needle. Make sure your needle, use the knob over here, isn't down. You have to have it up so you can get to the hole of the needle. Sometimes I lick it to get it through. And then you kind of just put it in there. Just practice with that, you'll get it. Then you're going to pull it back and out of the way. Okay, normally this will be here, and I'm sure your sewing machine will come off like this. You open up this, and this is called your bobbin. I'll show you in another video how to lace your bobbin, but we'll do that later. So make sure the string is going to the right, that way, before you put it inside the bobbin holder. So you just stick it in there. There's a little slit right here. You pull it and it comes out there. A little slit there and then a little hook there. Then you need to hold this little lever open, kind of back so it doesn't fall out. Then you can see there's a little hole for that lever. You just stick it in there. Then you hold this out and close the door. Make sure that's sticking out. Then you're going to hold your original thread, and then you're going to turn your wheel over here and pull. And now you can get close up. You can see the little white thread, and you just hook that. Now you have both. Make sure that they pull smoothly. Because if they don't pull smoothly, then something is stuck in there and you have to start over. And then this is a little cutter that you can just make it shorter. Then hold it down and put it out of your way. That's literally the hardest part of sewing. So once you get practice in that down, you will be fine. I'm going to put this back. Sometimes this will be easier to sew other things, but that will be best. And then, like I said, once you get this part done, it's going to be a lot easier. Everything else is really, really fun. If it gets bunched up or something goes wrong, just redo that process. So, now we're going to make the mask. So, since this is a Christmas video, I have my Christmas nails and Christmas material. So, I'm not going to pin in this video very much, but ironing and pinning is key. You got to take the time to do that. This one has a little spritz of water. That's good to do. Okay. Let's get that out of the way. It's very hot. Now, this is really cool. All you have to use is a plate for your pattern. So I like to use save as much material as possible. So I'm going to go all the way to the end, but not too close to the end. So you have to have enough to cut. So, I'm going to use a Sharpie so I can see it clearly. Okay, and I forgot to tell you, this is just a single layer. If you wanted to make 2 Christmas ones, you can double it up and do the same thing and then cut 2 at a time if you would like. Actually, I'm going to do that because I'm sure we can make 2 Christmas ones. And then iron it one more time. Might as well cut too if you're cutting it. Okay. I'm gonna cut this really fast so it's not boring. But when you do it, go slow and take your time. Make sure to keep holding it all the time and have a lot of space on your table. I don't have a lot of space on mine. Okay, just get this out of the way. We'll fold that up nicely later so that it's not wrinkly. And then again, I'm gonna iron it because it just makes everything so much easier. Lines up and everything. And since we're only making one, I'm gonna take one off. But I wouldn't layer it up more than 2 because then it gets kind of off when you cut. So just 2 layers at most if you're making 2. Only 1 if you only want 1. Okay, so now all you do is fold it in half. Looks like a tortilla. Iron again. Right on that crease especially. Then you're going to fold it again. Iron. Right on that crease. Okay. So now you're going to have, looks like this. Okay? So, I need to grab my ruler. You can measure it. I can give you the measurements, but I found it a lot easier just to take a ruler and you see there's just a tiny bit of the corner. Can you get close up? So it's just a tiny bit showing, and then make a line. And then you're gonna want to make kind of like about like that. So there's a little bit of corner showing on that end. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can always adjust it of whatever size you're making to. But just see those 2 angles. So right here, where there's a tiny bit showing, and then right here, where there's a tiny bit showing of that corner. So just angles like that. You don't need to measure it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then you're just gonna cut those off. Right on the lines. Okay. Now, you're going to open it up completely. And you'll have 2 pieces. And you put them together. Then, you're going to sew just around this outer edge. Leave like about 1/4 of an inch so you don't get, so you make sure that these are lined up. I'll show you on the sewing machine. Okay, so you come over here. You can pin this. Like I said, pinning is key. I'll go ahead and show you. Just make sure you leave enough room here to go all the way across. So the more you pin, the easier it is to sew. So while you're a beginner, I would just pin as much as you want. And then you're going to go over here. And just leave a little bit of space over there because, like I said, you're going to want to go all the way around. And you're not going to want to sew there because you might not get both layers. So there's a little bit, it's about lined up with this. This is called your foot. Then you have your pedal down here with your foot. And this is the backspace. You always want to backspace when you backstitch when you are starting. So back and then go. Just make sure this is lined up with the outer edge the whole time. And you can go slow to start. Just keep keep turning it. Don't get your finger down there. It'll hurt really bad. I'm gonna go fast just to get this done. You'll definitely get faster the more you practice. And then when you back stitch, you go over here so you don't have the extra thread at the end. So just double check that you got both layers. Now you can take the pins out. And you're just gonna cut these threads. Always cut them and get them out of the way because they'll stick to everything. And then I am gonna go ahead and just trim this a little bit. Don't go too close because otherwise they'll come apart. Just gonna trim it a little bit so it has a little, not bunched up with extra fabric. Doesn't have to be perfect again. I like to have my garbage close and I could just swipe it in, but okay, now you're gonna open it up. See how this is the right side because it has the colorful fabric. This is the wrong side. So with right sides together, you're gonna line it up. There, there, and there. Okay? So that's, I'm going to show you one more time. I know it's a little confusing part. So you're right here. You just sewed. You're going to open it up. You're going to, like this, grab both sides and push it together. Okay? Then, it's really important to line the middle up first. It's not going to be perfect, like I said. And then let's pin that. Make sure these are going flat. And then you're going to line up these corners. Mine don't line up perfectly, but that's okay. And then you're going to line up these corners. And pin. And I'm going to go ahead and iron just one more time because it's, like I said, it's going to make it easier. Don't iron over the pin head because it will melt, but just a little ironing here helps. It's not a huge deal. Okay, now we're going to go back to the sewing machine and we're going to sew. We're going to start sewing right here. But now here's the time for the ear loops. These are really awesome. If you want to show these, Layla, these are your fabrics. So you love Star Wars. I've ordered these off Amazon and they're the best. I used to use elastic and it's thick and you can never get the measurements right. These are awesome because you can tighten them as you want so they can fit the size that's best for you. So you're going to open it up. And you're going to put one on the very inside. Here, I'm going to take this out. So see that? And you're going to put it all the way. Sorry, we're going to go inside. Just take your time on this. Sometimes it's a little... So have enough sticking out so you can make sure it gets in there. Kind of shove that in there a little bit, because you want it to be straight. Okay? Go ahead and pin that. You can pin right on it. Hold it and still. Then, make sure that's folded just like that. And then you're gonna, there's Jaws, of course. Put that one in. Leave a little bit of space on the end. Okay? Little space there, so it's not very, very close to the end. We'll pin that. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to wait to put that one in because I'll show you it's easier. Put it in when we get started. Okay, back to the sewing machine. Make sure again this pulls nicely. If it doesn't, you kind of just have to wiggle the wheel over there. Pull that back. Okay, so now remember where your ear loops are. So you're going to start right there. So you line your sewing machine up right on there. And then we're going to do a little, right when you go over these, you're going to do a little back stitch just to secure it in place. So I'm going to go, and then I'm going to go back, and then I'm going to go over it again. Make sure to leave enough space out here. I should have put it a little closer, but. Okay, I'm going to go right over the next one. Back stitch. And then we're going to stop right there. It's a little close for comfort for me, but here, we can even back stitch a little bit. There. Okay, make sure your elastic's not in the way. You can just shove that in there. Okay, now with the needle down, see it's up, down, you're going to pull this lever up. And when we get together, I can show you more in detail, but this could be your video for later. Push it back down, and now you're going to sew this way. Again, this isn't lined up the best, which is fine as long as you just get both layers in. Make sure that's laying flat. Take the needle out. And you're just going to curve around. Okay, now stop probably an inch from there. I'm just going to take it out. Okay, and then I always trim in between because I just don't like to deal with the long strings everywhere. Sometimes fabrics get a little frayy. I'm going to stand up here. I should have backstitched here. I didn't because that could come out really easily, so I would have backstitched there. I should have. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and trim this again. Just a tiny bit off, just so we don't have bunched up. But again, you don't have to. I just like, and I can get the little frays out too. Okay, take this needle out. Now you're ready for your next elastic. So you're gonna do the exact same thing on this side, except for you're just gonna do the first one because we have to leave room right here to turn it inside out. So I'm gonna just push this all the way in. Get it out of the way. Make sure it's way in there so it's not in your way when you sew this, and this is straight back. Okay? See, the whole thing's like right there. Stick that out a little bit more. Okay, and now we're just going to start where we were and sew to there. We can go ahead and pin it, hold it in place. Okay, back to the sewing machine. So we're going to go right on that line again. Put your pedal down so make sure it's lined up. I'm going to go to the end here. See, my needle's in the way, so I'm just going to take that out and hold it. Hold the elastic with your finger. And then when you get to the end here, I'm going to put the needle down. Again, lift my foot up, turn it. And then again, when we go over the elastic, we're going to double stitch, back stitch, and then leave enough space, line your foot with this. Whoops, I think I went a little too far. That's okay. So we're going to leave enough space so we can turn it inside out. So I would have stopped just like right after elastic because I didn't leave myself a lot of space to turn it inside out, but that's okay. Trim. Cut that little piece off. When you trim, there'll be one stitch on one side and one piece of thread on the other side. Okay, I am going to go ahead and iron one more time because this crease is really important up here. My elastic's in the way. So definitely get up in that crease right there. Okay. Now, like I said, I didn't leave myself a lot of space to a hole to turn that inside out, but I can still make it work. And then next time I'll just remember to leave more space. And if you accidentally go all the way, you can seam rip it, which I can show you when we get together or another video too. Just gonna turn it, just go slow so you don't rip the opening more. Like I said, this is usually a lot easier, but I didn't leave the hole as big as I should have. Okay. Definitely want to iron because now it's a little wrinkly. You're going to stick your finger in the hole and get all the corners really straight out. Pull on the elastic, go all the way so it has a good crease. Go on that one, go on that corner, especially the corners. There's our hole where we turned it inside out. So now we have it on both sides. Okay, so now, again, we're gonna iron, especially this crease on top. Line it up. You can kind of see where the line is. And I'm gonna kind of see what the best side is for this side, for the front, but you could use it either way. Okay, so this top crease, I'm gonna iron it. I'm also gonna fold it in half and iron it. Just again to get all those creases. Okay, so now we're just gonna sew on each side. So the one that we have open, we're gonna open that little hole. If you make it bigger, it'll be easier to work with. You kind of fold it in so you have a nice finished edge. Take this, make sure it's lined up like that so it's not twisted the wrong way. Not a huge deal though. You put that in there, make sure you just get enough in there so it doesn't fall out. And since you're probably making kid masks, it's okay if it's a little bit shorter, this thing. Okay, and you know what? You can go ahead and iron that too. It's gonna make the sewing a lot easier. Pin, if you want. I'll probably take this off when I get in there, and we're gonna do the same thing to this side. This side should, I think we sewed too close to the edge, but we're gonna make a line on that side anyway. So we're gonna fold that down a little bit. Just make sure everything's tucked in there. Okay. And then I'm just gonna pin, I'm gonna pin it. And then I'm gonna iron it just a tiny bit. Don't get the thing in there. I don't like little strings, so I'm gonna just clip that. Okay. Now all we're gonna do is just sew one line here and one line here. Just gonna make sure that it's all tucked in. Just gonna line it up right in front of the, on top of the elastic again. I like to just hold it tight at the top so I can get a nice straight line. I'm gonna same thing on this side. Let's see, we did the blue on that side, so let's do the blue on this side. Take the needle out, just hold it in there tight. This one we are going to backstitch right over the elastic because that was a loose one a couple times. There we go. Okay, let's trim. Iron maybe one more time and then we're done. So like I said, there's one on each side. These ones are important you get because right down to the fabric because you don't want string showing on your final product, especially. If you just hold the string tight, one at a time, and then get right at the end. You shouldn't have any strings. You can always go back if you see strings later. Sometimes there's like floaty